Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have one of the most impressive 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurus Rex models that I will ever look at on this channel. I can say that with confidence straight out of the gate because this is an incredible model created by Ancient Era Artistry. I have reviewed some of their products here on the channel in the past. They've always been incredible, but this is probably going to be the granddaddy of them all because first of all, here is the base for our T-Rex, and you can see it is huge. You can also probably see the footprint there for the T-Rex, showing off the fact that this is going to be a pretty big model. So if we put the base down, we'll bring in the next part of this incredible diorama, which is this part. Now you can see we've got the Ancient Era Artistry tag here on this, so straight away that's pretty cool to have that on here. And if we turn it around carefully, oh, there we go, we can now see the logo and everything here on the back. But what you'll also be able to see here is the fact that the intestines are spilled and everything for this. We've got ourselves a pretty dead Tyrannosaurus Rex here. Now, you might look at this and think, what kind of a beast could have done this to a Tyrannosaurus? Because this model here represents what we basically see Tyrannosaurus as full size in 1/35th scale. This is about a 40-foot long Tyrannosaurus Rex, obviously very deceased and very mangled up. This one's going to be pretty fun to paint up just because it is so absolutely destroyed. But we'll go ahead, set this here on the base for right now, and then we're going to bring in the next piece of the puzzle. Now keep in mind that this is a 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurus, hypothetically, because here is our Tyrannosaurus Rex. I can't even get it into screen here. Right there is our T-Rex way back there behind our deceased version. Now if we move this over here and kind of put the two next to each other, I think you'll really be able to appreciate the size difference there. You can now see how much smaller this one is compared to this. Now you might look at this and think, well, that's got to be a 1/20th scale T-Rex. Well, actually, it would be even larger than a 1/20th scale T-Rex if we're looking at it from the size range of this one, which is about a 40-foot long T-Rex. This is actually meant to be the Apex Rex, created again by Ancient Era Artistry, which is inspired by the potentially 70% larger version of Tyrannosaurus Rex that Dr. Hone has recently proposed. And you may have seen that information kind of all over the place. I think it was all over Facebook and stuff for a little while, which is where I usually spend most of my time reading any type of dinosaur discoveries on Facebook. And that was like making its rounds everywhere, that they believe, or at least Dr. Hone believes, that potentially Tyrannosaurus could have been 70% larger at, of course, adulthood than we already believe it could be. So this shows you what our current understanding of a 1/35th scale T-Rex is, compared to what he is proposing, which is this one. And this is how much larger the T-Rex could be, technically, than our, again, usual size range that we see T-Rex depicted in at 1/35th scale. So if we go ahead and push this over here a little bit and bring this in and get a better view of it, or at least a little bit of a better view. Let's just kind of back this up and bring the camera up, give you a little bit of a better visual. You can see this is an absolute beast of a Tyrannosaurus Rex model. This is easily one of the largest T-Rex that I have in my collection, and also one of the most impressive. And now having all of these pieces here out of the packaging, I just really cannot wait to get this actually painted up and assembled and everything, because it looks unbelievable already. But before we jump to that closer look, I wanted to show you guys some stuff, because inside the box we also have a really cool Ancient Era Artistry magnet, which is the same logo we saw on the tag on the deceased Rex. We also have a very cool Ancient Era Artistry sticker, which shows off the Apex Rex, who we are actually taking a look at today. But you might take a look at this and notice, well, this one's got the mouth closed, and we'll go over that here in just a moment. And then we also have this little slip of paper, again, just showing off the Ancient Era Artistry logo, a really cool shot of the juvenile Tyrannosaurus, who I have actually reviewed here on the channel. It's a really neat diorama that I really recommend checking out, so make sure you check out the Ancient Era Artistry playlist here on the channel to see model reviews of their other stuff. But you can see here on the back, again, it basically tells us that we've got a certificate of authenticity, and this is an original product from Ancient Era Artistry. Now, on top of all of that, you can see our Tyrannosaurus here, again, with its mouth open, looking very ferocious. Well, you have your choice of getting the open mouth version or a closed mouth version, and it was a very hard process for me to decide if I wanted the open mouth version or closed mouth version. I eventually went with the open mouth version, as we can very clearly see, just because I think it's going to create a little bit of a cooler visual here with the dinosaur just looking really angry and its absolutely destroyed meal over here. But you can see, again, we do have the closed mouth version. Both have lips. You can, I believe, purchase this with a lipless version as well if you are more, on the lipless side of things, or if you are on the lipped side of things. You've got the best of both worlds. When it comes to Ancient Era Artistry, they've got you covered. You can get both versions. And again, you can get the closed mouth version or open mouth version. And I will say the closed mouth version is just as beautiful as the open mouth version. And now having this, and considering the size of this, I might actually just make a small bust of this at some point and display this as well, because there's no way I can let this go to waste. It is a gorgeous head sculpt and just an incredible model as a whole. But again, we do have these others here to go over, which is our deceased Rex, the base, and our massive Apex Rex. So let's jump to a closer look at all of this right now. So because the Rex is absolutely so massive, we're going to review the Apex Rex itself straight off the bat. We'll get this one out of the way, and then we'll take a look at the other parts of the model. But when you get nice and close, you can see how impressive this model is, not just due to its size, but also the amazing sculpt work that Matt has put into this. Matt from Ancient Era Artistry. You can see, again, very impressive skin texture. The fine detail is honestly incredible, and the print quality of this is equally as incredible. You've got larger scutes and osteoderms and stuff. Moving along, you've got more of that here on the tip of the lower jaw. And then as you lead up here, again, rough and rugged looking skin texture through the majority of the face, that is for sure. You've got the ears sculpted out, as well as the nostrils right there, and the eye socket as well. Very impressive looking. You can just see this, and you can envision how old this Tyrannosaur would be. It just looks like it's a very, very massive, obviously, but quite old and I'd say pretty ferocious Tyrannosaurus Rex. As you lead up here, and I try not to knock anything over here with the tail back here, you can see the tongue on the inside of the mouth is very impressively sculpted. You can also see the teeth are really nicely done. Every tooth sculpted individually. They all have a genuine sharp look to them. The detailing here as you move up is equally as impressive as we saw in the lower jaw. You can see as you look back there, it looks like it actually has a genuine throat, so that is just another level of realism for this. But when you look at the inside of the mouth on the upper side, you can't dare deny how impressive that looks. That is amazing looking up there on the inside of the mouth. And of course we have the teeth. The teeth look fantastic as well. As you move around here, you can see they all look, again, very menacing and quite sharp, and I would not want to be bitten by this Tyrannosaurus, although I don't know that I'd really have to worry about that, because I think if he wanted to eat me, he'd probably just take one gulp and I'd be gone. But as you move along here on the model, you can see leading back here into the neck, we've got some more really nice creasing and skin detail here, as well as some nice tensing in the neck moving back. You've got all sorts of skin wrinkles and skin folds down here in the throat region of our Tyrannosaurus as well. It does have its head turned in a right-leaning position, as well as a tilt, and you can see that displayed here, especially when you look from up above, and the way that the spinal column is kind of turning here. You can really see that tilt quite nicely to the head, and again, some nice tensing in the neck. As you continue to move back, you of course have seams on the model, because I did just put it together. I will obviously review it here as it's just put together to show you basically what you get if you order it, and then I'll paint it up and show you what it could look like when you finish it. But as you lead back here, you can see injuries and stuff, like specifically right here. You'll see all sorts of injuries and scars and everything as you move through the body of this. They're all over the place, honestly, because this Tyrannosaur is so huge and has lived for such an extended period of time. It's definitely racked up some damage over the years, and you'll definitely pick that out as you move through. You can see see the skin texture looks absolutely gorgeous as you move through the body as well. Definitely a nice beefy T-Rex as well. You can see that the stomach is quite impressive when it comes to the size, so it's been eating pretty well, and that's pretty much how we always see our Tyrannosaurs nowadays, just very big and bulky. Moving down here into the arm, you can see some nice muscle definition. You can also see the fingers as the toes get in the way. We'll try to sneak a peek between them. The fingernails also look quite nice. The toes are just like aching to get in the way right there, so we can try to get a look at that spot. But as you move back up, you've got the hip bone. You have some nice skin creases and stuff right there in front of the thigh. As you lead back, you can see the muscle definition of the thigh is extremely impressive. Leading down, you've got the knee and everything there in the front of the leg, big bulging calf muscle moving down. And then we lead down into the foot sculpt, and that is a very nice looking Tyrannosaurus foot sculpt. Nice scoots running down the front of the foot down into the toes, and the nails look very nice as well. And just continuing to add elements of realism. Look, you can actually see an injury from the toe into the nail over there. Like, that is on another level of fine detail you don't often see from any type of a sculptor. And when I say it's impressive, I am not kidding. You've got the dew claw as well, if we look over there at the opposing side. And then we lead back up, you've got some more nice skin wrinkles and skin creases right there as you lead back from the thigh. And we lead out here into the tail. The tail has a very strong curve to it as it turns back toward us. The entire dinosaur kind of leans toward its right. You can also see some scoots here moving along the back of the spinal column, leading along here through the back. It actually starts all the way up here at the back of the neck, which I didn't mention, and then leads through the course of the entire spinal column of the T-Rex. But you can now see that curve in the tail again. Looks very cool. You can see the opposing side of the head sculpt is actually a little hard to get into screen because of the way the tail curves. It's a little hard to really get it in a good shot. You've got some more kind of like scars and injuries and stuff there in the face of the T-Rex. As you lead down, you can see the same thing for the lower jaw. This one's going to be fun to paint as well, just because there is so many injuries and stuff to paint out on this. But as you lead back here into the neck, you can again see the tensing of the neck, all the skin wrinkles there in the throat region. More injuries, again, like I said, they are just absolutely everywhere. All sorts of scars and stuff all over this T-Rex. You move back, the other arm here is again in pretty much the same position as we saw on the first side. Again, big bulky belly here for our T-Rex. You can see how the skin is stretching off of the stomach here because the leg on this side is stretching back because of the pose. And as we move up, you can see again, you get a very close-up view of the skin texture this time because I'm trying desperately not to mash the dinosaur against the backdrop here. We have the tail up above the backdrop actually right now, which is why I can get it a little bit further away from the screen. You can see the hip bone again right there. As you move down, you've got a very big injury. I would probably paint this one out as a modern injury, like a current injury for our T-Rex moving down. But again, you go down, you've got the foot sculpt down here, which my camera's not focusing on. There we go. Very nice foot sculpt, nicely sculpted toes, nicely sculpted nails, nice scoots down the toes and everything again. And then we lead back up into the tail, again, just like we saw on the initial side moving out. We've also got really nice fine detail for the underside. As you move along, you can see the cloaca is present here on the underside of the T-Rex. And again, the scale detail again looks extremely impressive when you get nice and close and just look at it. Look at how good that scale detail looks. So the Apex Rex is a massive beast, no doubt about it. At 1/35th scale, it's easily the largest 1/35th scale T-Rex I have and will probably ever have. I don't see too many people replicating the Apex Rex. But then we've also got the deceased version, which again, this one would be a 1/35th scale T-Rex at the size that we usually see T-Rex portrayed at. And you can see here that the Tyrannosaurus absolutely is mashed up and destroyed as it gets. You can see all kinds of injuries here on the face. And moving down, you've got the jaw, which is absolutely wrecked. You can see it's all kinds of crooked. The tongue there, kind of crooked there on the inside of the mouth. As you lead back, my camera doesn't seem to like the color of this for some reason. But as you move back, you can see the twist in the head and neck area here for the T-Rex. You can also see the back of the head leading into the neck is torn open completely, exposing vertebrae and everything. As you lead down here a little bit further, the entire stomach region is completely annihilated, which the tag is now kind of obscuring a little bit. So we'll try to move that over just a tad. I guess we could technically just take it off because it's got to come off at some point soon when I paint this, so we'll just remove that entirely. I just wanted to leave it on so I could show it to you guys at first. But you can see the entire insides of the T-Rex. There might be a few areas I need to clean up a little bit on this, but you can see as you lead back, you've got all kinds of intestines and everything in there for our absolutely obliterated Tyrannosaurs. This is going to be a really fun one to paint. But as you lead back here, you can see again the muscle definition and everything that you would like to see when it comes to a T-Rex like this. You've got the hip bone and everything, and then leading down you can see how the legs are just kind of laying here. Very highly detailed Tyrannosaurus. Even for being a corpse, the actual sculpt is exceptionally highly detailed. And then you lead back and you again have a nice curve in the tail, some more slices right there. We have the same sort of appearance as well with the kind of ridges and everything moving along the back of the Tyrannosaur like we saw on our Apex Rex, which would just cause this one to be, again, technically, even though it's considered an adult now, if you look at it from the standpoint of the Tyrannosaurus being 70% larger, this, I guess, would be a bit of a younger Tyrannosaurus compared to our Apex Rex. But it looks super cool, super impressive. Every area on this is fantastic when it comes to a deceased Tyrannosaurus. Easily the coolest looking dead dinosaur I think I've ever seen. And then we've got the massive base, which you can see is just a nice, very highly detailed earthy area. You have all kinds of rocks and stuff all over the place. I feel like this would probably be the den, you know, where our Tyrannosaurus lives, and it has drugged back its deceased T-Rex here and is now going to enjoy its meal. But you can see as you move through, the fine detail is super crisp, super nicely done. Again, Ancient Era Artistry really excels at everything they do, and they never have laziness when it comes to any aspect of their model. You can see that when it comes to having such a highly detailed, very impressive looking base. Probably one of the nicest looking bases I think I've ever seen, and this is exactly the same thing you'll see through the course of every model that they release. Every single one that I've reviewed so far, whether it was the twinning or the Rexoning, they've all been really highly detailed, and they put just as much effort into the base to create such a nice visual for you as they do with their dinosaurs. So something you can always look forward to when buying an Ancient Era Artistry model is having every aspect of the model be the highest of quality possible. So we're at the point now where I'm going to go ahead, fill the seams on these bad boys, get some paint work on this, and we'll check it out from there once it's finished. So here is my now fully finished and painted version of the Apex Rex, and I'm really quite happy with it, honestly, because I wanted to go for, you know, a color scheme that is not even remotely flashy, not in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want really cool patterning or anything through the course of the Rex, because I feel like if the Tyrannosaurus had reached this size, that, you know, the coloration on it would probably start to dull a little bit. It would start to be, you know, less vibrant because it's a bit older. So I went for, you know, coloration that was definitely a lot, you know, darker. Not a whole lot going on as far as patterning or anything. Like, there's obviously variation of color and stuff throughout. I did add some slight, you know, hints of reds and stuff throughout the course of the body of the Apex Rex here, but I also painted out a lot of the injuries, which you can see here, like this one out here on the tail, and you'll see, you know, a mix of injuries and scars painted out as you move through the course of the Tyrannosaurus, because we obviously know that this is definitely, again, a bit of an older T-Rex, so it's probably sustained quite a bit of damage. Like, I did paint this little injury out over here by the toenail and everything, but it's obviously sustained, you know, quite a bit of damage as it's lived its life, and definitely has not only, again, sustained damage causing scars and stuff, like you can see some scars there, but also currently has open injuries, you know, still on the body. And I tried to give it as lifelike of a paint job as I'm possibly able to, and like I said, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. We'll turn it around, take a look at the other side as best we can, considering the fact that it's pretty big and a little hard to kind of get into screen. There's also some injuries here kind of coming up through the side of the face, and some scars down here on the lower jaw. Again, also some more open injuries right there. So we do have a lot going on as far as like some slices and stuff. You can see more right there as you move through the body. There's even more as you move back here into the stomach region. So it appears as though our Tyrannosaurus has definitely sustained a few injuries in its day, and obviously more recently has also sustained some injuries, and that's of course partially because of the fact that there is a Tyrannosaurus down here that is deceased. I also tried to add a little bit of blood to the teeth and stuff, not a whole lot, because I almost feel like the scene that's taking place was either a fight between this T-Rex here and another large T-Rex similar to it that maybe had already killed this T-Rex down here that's underneath the smaller Tyrannosaurus, and maybe this one is kind of fending it away, and that's why we have the, you know, mouth open like this, kind of letting out some sort of a defensive appearance. Or maybe this T-Rex did just kill the other one down here, and it's kind of showing its dominance by letting out this vocalization. I don't really know, but I tried to paint it out to where it looks like it's maybe got a few shots in, you know, applied some injuries, but doesn't have a mouth absolutely loaded with blood. However, the other Tyrannosaurus isn't in such good shape, and as you can see, it's probably one of the grossest sights that I think you'll see when it comes to a deceased dinosaur. Once you actually paint everything out and get a nice visual on everything, it is absolutely wrecked. Like, this T-Rex is in really bad shape, which you can see. And obviously this is the Tyrannosaurus that at 1/35th scale, this is basically what the size of the Tyrannosaurus would be, you know, as far as our current understanding goes. But the other one would be 1/35th scale at 70% larger, or what we believe or potentially believe Tyrannosaurus could have, you know, grown to. But you can see we've got injuries and everything all over the place. Obviously the intestines have been spilled out here down on the underside of the T-Rex, and you can see all sorts of grossness here on the inside of the stomach, which has been completely ripped open and just obliterated. So hopefully the paintwork on this as well has done this justice. I really wanted it to look as realistic and lifelike as possible to help create this scene in the most realistic way possible. And I still tried to apply, you know, kind of a decent color scheme to the Rex without, again, being too flashy. I actually had painted some 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurs previously from Ancient Era Artistry, so I kind of tried to go with almost a color scheme sort of similar to what we had on those, so this diorama almost kind of matches with the other diorama I've already painted and have in my collection. And then we also have the base, and the base looks really nice here. You can see everything once it's actually painted out looks incredible. I didn't kind of put like a whole bunch of blood spilt down here, even though the T-Rex is currently laying here sort of bleeding all over the place, and that's because I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to keep the deceased Rex on the diorama. I probably will. I really should have just probably painted that on there, but I painted it in a way where I can take the deceased Rex off of the base and, you know, have the big version, the 70% larger version, the Apex Rex, standing on the base without the other one in there. And if I would have painted the blood on it, I feel like it would have been essential to keep that version of the Tyrannosaurus here on the base. But you can see, again, the base is absolutely gorgeous, definitely as realistic as it gets, really nicely recreating the earthy area that our Tyrannosaurus would be currently standing in. So hopefully my paint job on all of this has brought it to life at least fairly decently. You'll have to let me know in the comments section how I did as far as that goes, but I'm pretty darn happy with it. And then here is the entire diorama put together with the Apex Rex standing on the base, and obviously our deceased or currently in the process of dying Tyrannosaurus Rex down here on the bottom. And what I like about this is you can see that the tail of the T-Rex is actually up here in the air, the smaller T-Rex. The head as well is kind of lifting up. So it almost, as horrifying and grotesque as this is going to sound, it almost appears as though that Tyrannosaurus is actually still alive and is currently in the process of dying, letting out, you know, kind of like a few last twitches as its life leaves its body, with the tail kind of still up in the air and the head twisted, almost letting out like attempting to let out a vocalization or something. So, you know, making the scene twice as disturbing when you think about it in that way. But it looks honestly amazing when you do have it all put together. Definitely one of the coolest dioramas that I have in my collection. Definitely one of the coolest dioramas I've ever seen. As far as a size goes, for the T-Rex, lengthwise from the tail to the snout, about 16 3/4 inches, or around 42 1/2, closing in on 43 centimeters. Now, of course, that's with the Tyrannosaurus having its body curved. The head is curved in, the tail is curved in. So if the dinosaur were actually completely stretched out, that would definitely be a bit different as far as the size goes. And then for a height, I guess the back would probably be the highest point. I'll go ahead and try to get this back there. It's a little hard to tell exactly, but I would say closing in on 8 inches or 20 centimeters. Somewhere in that vicinity is where you would see the larger T-Rex completely up on the base height-wise. And then we also have the, deceased version, or in the process of being deceased version down here. If I can try to get this into screen without completely knocking the larger Rex over, and bring this down a little bit. You're not going to find much in the way of a height because it's laying on its side, but lengthwise, I'd say right around 12 inches or about 30.5 centimeters. Probably not the best measurement in the world because I couldn't really see the end of the tail perfectly, but that's right around where I would say that this sits at. So for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being standing in here for a size next to this Ancient Era Artistry APEX Rex model. And you can see that all of these figures here next to it are nowhere near a competition for this Apex Rex. And in fact, I don't know that I would have many Tyrannosaurs in my collection that would be competition for this outside of like the larger 1/20th scale beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaurs and like the Dinosauria sideshow and stuff like that, because this Rex is, again, massive. Obviously, when it comes to a 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurus, I absolutely have nothing even close to this. For some randoms, we have a Mattel Dilophosaurus and Velociraptor here, which you can see would make a pretty nice lunch for our Tyrannosaurus. We've also got the Safari LTDU Tyrannus, the Schleich Diabloceratops, and Collect A Deluxe Dimetrodon next to our Apex Rex, again, showing you that when it comes to a comparison, nothing is even close to this Tyrannosaurus. Now, there aren't really a whole lot of comparisons that I feel like are really going to do this model justice, so the one comparison I really wanted to do would be to bring in Wilson from PNSO, because this is like one of the most popular, probably of all time 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurus figures that you will find. So I really felt like, in fact, we might want to move this over a little bit, just bring Wilson in the screen here a little bit more. But I really felt like this would be a comparison that just shows you how impressive the size difference is between the 1/35th scale Tyrannosaurus as we know it and the potentially 70% larger version of Tyrannosaurus that we see here with the Apex Rex. And you can obviously and very clearly see a gigantic size difference. So this Ancient Era Artistry Apex Rex Tyrannosaurus diorama is honestly one of the absolute most incredible models that I have ever laid my eyes on. The sculpt on everything in this is incredible. Whether it's the Apex Rex itself, which you can see sports a very cool, very dynamic pose with a slight crouch to it and, a nice curve to the tail, as well as that mouth open wide, although you can switch it out again for the closed mouth version if you would prefer. But you can see again, it just looks absolutely as incredible visually as it gets when it comes to a Tyrannosaurus model. So even if you don't get the deceased Rex and you just go with the Apex Rex itself, it's still probably one of the best Tyrannosaurus models I've ever seen. And on top of that, there's just so much realism to it. You could see so much incredible sculpt and detail through the course of the entire Tyrannosaurus, making it also one of the most highly detailed Tyrannosaurus models I've ever seen. But you also have so many tiny little cuts and scrapes and injuries and, larger injuries like gashes taken out of the body all the way down to small scars. And that really shows you not only how much time went into sculpting this out, but it shows you Ancient Era Artistry's dedication to giving you the most realistic product possible. And I think they definitely achieved that here with this drop-dead gorgeous Apex Rex. But the sculpt doesn't stop there, because once you move down to the Tyrannosaurus that is laying down on the ground, that is absolutely obliterated. That is as well probably the most amazing piece of deceased dinosaur art I've ever seen, because the sculpt on this is insane. There's so much detail throughout, and not just when it comes to like the skin texture and skin wrinkles and muscle definition and stuff like that of the Tyrannosaurs, but also when it comes to the injuries, because man, did they ever do an amazing job sculpting out all of the injuries and sculpting them out, you know, accordingly, basically to how they should appear, whether it's like the smaller cuts and slices on the body all the way down to the rib cage showing, or the vertebrae sticking out of the back of the neck, or the intestines kind of spilled out of the stomach. Like, the actual sculpt of this is incredible, and probably one of the, if not the most amazing deceased dinosaur models I've ever seen. They really did a phenomenal job on this. And then there's also the base, and the base looks absolutely gorgeous, just like everything else. Again, sporting an extremely highly detailed appearance, very much so looking like a chunk of the earth was just brought here, thrown on my table, and then they brought some dinosaurs, and living dinosaurs at that, and threw them on top of that, and now we have this diorama here complete. Like I said, definitely one of the most amazing models that I've ever seen, and easily my new favorite from Ancient Era Artistry that I now have in my collection. And of course, I got this, you know, unpainted. You would have to paint it up yourself or send it to a paleo artist to have it painted up. I recommend painting it yourself because painting dinosaurs is just so unbelievably much fun. But you'll have to let me know if you like the paint jobs that I gave these. I didn't try to go flashy or anything like that with either of them. I really wanted to keep it, you know, especially for the Apex Rex, kind of basic and almost a little bit faded, sort of looking like it's an older version of a T-Rex. I really wanted to try to make this as realistic as possible. So hopefully I achieved that, and hopefully I painted the gore and everything out on the dead Rex as nicely as possible. Like I said, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about my paintwork as well as the model itself. And if you are interested in grabbing one for yourself, which I absolutely recommend doing so, I will of course include links in the description to all of Ancient Era Artistry's social media accounts, their website, everything where you can go. Head on over there to get as much Ancient Era Artistry in your life as possible, and of course order this absolutely amazing model. So make sure you do all of that, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.